And as we mentioned, Jules, the reason we're having this conversation is when you looked at Manchester City, a goalkeeper wasn't a priority, which of course is quite the opposite to the red side of Manchester. When you think, right, a goalkeeper like Donnarumma would be perfect for them, surely just to bring a little bit of experience and stability into the back. Why didn't that happen?
I don't know, it's a good question. I mean, he wanted a team that played in the Champions League anyway, so United already, that was not the case. This is, for Donnarumma, and we didn't mention it when we talked about him in City, this is a 100 million euro really investment, because if you count the transfer fee plus the 5-year contract with big wages, this is what it would cost you, and maybe United were not ready to spend that on a goalkeeper. What's more interesting maybe is the Dibu Martinez situation with United, because clearly they were very keen on him. The leadership, the personality, the experience, a winning goalkeeper, World Cup winner, Copa America winner, all of that. That against a young, up-and-coming, very talented, but still young and inexperienced with 1 year of professional football behind him in Layman'S from Royal Antwerp, with a lot of people watching us would have never heard of that club. And then between the two, they go for the younger options. Cheaper options, probably. And I think one of the issues today was that Dibu Martinez's demands were not really of agreement with United. Very different to Layman'S, who is not going to cost them much in wages at all, for example. But in terms of profile, not even just pure goalkeeping qualities that Xhaka can talk about, but just for the leadership that this United team, that Layman'S doesn't really have because he's been there 2 minutes as a pro, compared to Dibu Martinez, I find this choice really surprising.
Yeah, it isn't. It's like, well,
show me a recent. On the face of it, they look as if they made a couple of better signings, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we could pick out a dozen signings. You go, huh? That's a scratcher. What's that one about? And you know, they're in this. They keep talking about projects and this, that, and the next thing. And Jules is right. They have built their success over the years. They've always had an experience, whether it was Schmeichel or Barthez or even Mark Bosnich for a period. They've always had, you know, keepers that were super confident and would sort of bully a back four.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have no idea what this young man's like. I've not got a Scooby like most people, so I don't know. Clearly they must have done their homework, but then we could say that about 15 of their signings in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, they must have done their homework, and they're selling Rasmus Højlund for half the price. They're getting rid of Anthony for a pittance compared to what they paid. So I can't tell you about the recruitment strategy.
As the story was developing yesterday, I thought this had to be some kind of bluff, that they're going for both. You understand the signing of Layman'S at...
You go for Martinez as well?
Absolutely. You understand the signing of Layman'S at that price, more as a long-term project. But you've got to get Dibu Martinez in for all the reasons that Jules just said. And while signing 2 goalkeepers in one transfer window might seem odd, Manchester United need it. If you look at the 2 who've occupied those spots over the last season and 3 games so far between Bandier and Onana. So you totally understand 2 goalkeepers coming in. Now, my concern with Layman'S is, regardless of how talented he is, he's inexperienced. You cannot drop an inexperienced goalkeeper into this back four. You dropped a very experienced one in Andre Onana into this back four. You dropped a goalkeeper who, with Inter, got to a Champions League final. And they wanted his leadership, and this back four just left him exposed to the point where his confidence is now shattered. Now you bring a young man who's playing in Belgium, has got 1 Champions League game to his resume, and put him into this and expect him to transform Manchester United defensively. I thought, again, this was a huge miss for them in terms of the long-term prospects for Layman'S, and more importantly, the short-term for Dibu Martinez coming in and what he would have given them.
You think they're going to have to drop him in after
They're going to have to.
After the international break. And if you look at United's fixtures after the international break, it's the tough first 3 or 4 games are against some of the big boys. So that's where they're going to have to drop him in, unless they say, oh, we're just going to wrap him in a bit of cotton wool. But how can they do that when the other 2 are as bad as they are? So they're going to have to put him in the side.
We spoke a lot over the last couple of months about United needing reinforcements in midfield, Jules. And of course, the reason that they didn't bring new people in is because of the wage bill, because they needed to clear some of these players off their books. Great news, they've done it. Jadon Sancho, Højlund's gone as well, and Anthony's gone to Betis. The problem is, they've done it all today, which means that they've now got these wages off their books. However, they've got no time to bring anyone new in. And once again, if you're a United fan, you're sat there scratching your head saying, why is all this being done at the last minute and not done a couple of months ago where we could use those resources to bring in much needed reinforcements to this squad?
Well, I think simply because all the clubs that were ready to look into signing Anthony or Sancho, Garnacho, those kind of guys, knew that United were in a weak position because everybody, the whole world and more, knew that they wanted those players out. So if you're Betis, of course you wait until the last day of the transfer window because you're going to get an even better bargain. Same for Højlund, same for Sancho, same for Garnacho to a certain extent. I know it was not done today, but it was still only done on Saturday. Because all those clubs knew that United were so desperate that wait a little bit longer and at the end they say, okay, we give him to you for X amount or this or that, get him on loan or pay some of his wages, all of that. And that's where United, well, again, naive or incompetent, whatever word you want to use on the transfer window, because they just managed this whole situation of their bomb squad, which by the way is a terrible name to use for the players we don't want. It's even more like, we want them out. Look, we've just even put them in their own little squad that can't even train with the first team, but we want decent money for them, so please come and help us. No chance. And that's the reason. And you're right, the midfield, a keeper was needed. Forwards, you probably need but three like Šeško and Bomo and Cunha, I'm not sure. But midfield in this system for Amorim is key. And yet they didn't get any reinforcement there, which is crazy, really.
The problem is United were absolutely desperate to get rid of some of these players.
And everybody knew it.
But nobody was desperate to get their players. Yeah. As Joe said, the clubs were prepared to wait and maybe miss out. I mean, Betis don't get Anthony, they'll survive. Yeah. You know, if Barcelona don't get Rashford, I know he was done a bit earlier, they'll survive. Chelsea don't get Garnacho, they'll survive. You know, Jadon Sancho. So, you know, clubs were willing to take them at a cut price. They were not desperate for these United players because they've been proven not good enough. They're taking them on a whim, hoping that for a fraction of the cost it may have been a couple of years ago, they can possibly do a job for them. But they've brought in so many bad players that have underperformed that nobody has been desperate for their players. Nobody's been banging the door down trying to pay over the odds. Not for any of them.
This is business 101, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you put 4 players in a corner and say you're not good enough, but you're still trying to get value, as Jules said, why not take them on tour? Why not just show what they can do? Why not pretend at least that they've got a part to play in your season to try and get people away? Just get them interested.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you've got a car lot, you don't put all the bangers in the corner. The old bangers in the corner and then put a sale price on them and hope people come in and buy the ones that the tyres are hanging off.
It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make any sense. But is this down to Amorim?
No, it's down, well, both Amorim and the club. I think, again, Amorim could have handled this a whole lot differently. And to your point, we said this at the time, when these 4 players were excluded from training and we're not having them in and we're not taking them on tour, Manchester United just openly said, we are taking whatever we can get for this lot. And then all of a sudden, when you realise, hold on a minute, we might be stuck with these, you try to bring them in and integrate them. I'm a little bit surprised that Rashford got away as quickly as he did. So everybody else in world football knows, even if I want those guys, I can afford to wait. I can afford to wait because there aren't going to be many buyers. There aren't going to be many interested parties. Manchester United, the closer we get to the closer the transfer window, the lower their prices is going to go. It just beggars belief. And for all our complaints about Manchester United playing-wise, Manchester United over the years, and it's always a dangerous comparison to make, have been a very well-run football club. Nothing about their business coming or going speaks to the Manchester United that we continually talk about.
Who's responsible for this, Jules?
I think it's a bit of everyone, really. Amorim was very, very strict on, I don't need them, I don't want them here. I mean, he didn't even speak to them, sorry. So that was that. And from the club point of view, whether that was Fletcher, Wilcox or whoever is in charge of the recruitment and the sporting director role, if you want, it was also what they thought was the best. But I really think that Amorim didn't want them in that first team squad.